When you think of an unbeatable game, what comes to mind? An MMO maybe, because there will always be new content till the game ends when the company shuts it down because it starts lacking players. Games such as Tetris that can basically be played endlessly. I know, Tetris can be beaten, or a game that is just super duper hard that you personally would never be able to beat because you don't even want to try to since it would be a waste of time, like games such as I Wanna Be the Boshi. Or a game that is just broken, a game that tries its hardest to not let you beat it by being extremely buggy. One of those games is the PAL version of Digimon World, more specifically the versions for any other European country that isn't the UK. Apparently the UK version works just fine and does not have any extremely game-breaking bugs. Finally a win for Britain, yay. Judging by my accent, it's extremely obvious that I am German and everyone always has to tell me that. Us Germans got the bad version that makes it almost impossible to beat it. Same with Spain, France, and Italy supposedly. In these versions, there's the famous Agumon glitch. At the Ogre Fortress, you have to talk to Agumon so you can enter it, but he does not let you talk to him. Normally he would be standing here, but I downloaded myself 100% save file, so just imagine him there, like this. Regardless of what you do, he will just block your path and also blocks you from tons of new environments and Digimon to recruit. That's the bug. That's the video. Goodbye. I always thought the game just became straight up impossible to beat because of it, but apparently you can barely edge out the required number of Digimon to still fulfill your goal of kicking the final boss's butt. You need a prosperity score of 50 in your city to advance to a point where you can now go finish the fight. For people who might not know Digimon World, it's the game where you recruit Digimon by beating them or fulfilling some requests, and then they come to your town to open new stores, an arena, restaurants, things like that. Or some of them just enjoy staying around doing nothing. A Rookie Digimon gives you +1 to your city, a Champion Digimon +2, and an Ultimate Digimon +3. In a bugged out PAL version, you can achieve it if you recruit every single possible one that isn't gatekept away from you by the bug, by a single Digimon. If there was one less Digimon for you to recruit in this version, it would have been straight up impossible. And here it gets a bit muddy and confusing for me when I did some research. Apparently the Spanish version got another bug that won't make a teleporter work in Mount Infinity that makes it even more impossible because you will never be able to reach the final boss without it. On the fandom wiki it says all non-English PAL versions have this, while also saying this may only be in certain copies. Well, that does not narrow it down. There's a Digimon World patcher and it mentioned it fixes the teleporter bug, but only for the Spanish version, so I would assume it only ever happened in that version. So our poor Spanish friends got messed up especially hard. Imagine going through all the trouble to get everything in Digimon possible just for it to not matter. Digimon World was complex as hell in comparison to playing normal Pokemon. I know raising your Pokemon to have the perfect IVs and stuff like that is hard and grindy, but you don't even know what any of that stuff means as a kid, especially when you were an A-spamming kiddo like me who didn't care about stuff like buffs or other fancy things and just pick damage moves. In Digimon World, you had to do so many things to get the Digimon you wanted to have. You had to train them, never let them poop outside of the toilets, doing this, doing that. But actually, if you train them just a bit too much in this specific category, it evolves into a completely different one that you didn't want to have, so one little mistake can make all the progress you made before obsolete and you're stuck with a child you don't love. It's a great mechanic actually despite that. As a kid I loved just messing around to see what Digimon I can get by doing this kind of training, or never scolding it to see what kind of bratty Digimon it can become. It's also a really obtuse game. You have to be at certain places at specific times to meet certain Digimon. You need to have that one Digimon to make other Digimon appear, that kind of stuff. Without a guide, it's really damn hard to find all the ones you can actually get, which wouldn't be a problem if the game wasn't bugged. Normally the game has enough normal easy to find Digimon that will join you to reach the point of getting the city to the required amount, but the bug makes so much of the content unobtainable that as a kid I never got past a certain point because I could never find any more because I guess I was at the wrong places at the wrong times and couldn't figure out what I have to do to get more Digimon. Nowadays, what do you do when you get stuck? Yep, you look up a guide online or even a whole video. But when I was young, the internet for me was basically just Neopets, Kral Online, and shady AOL chat rooms. I didn't even know what a browser is, and for me using AOL was like, this is the internet. My brain never thought of just typing Digimon World 1 Komplettlösung into it, till a few years later. We had two big cheat sites in Germany called cheats.de or Spieletipps, both of which don't really exist anymore. They were these sites for you if you needed cheats or overall help for a game, and I can guarantee you every single German person who ever played a GTA game went onto either site and wrote down all the cheats onto a piece of paper from there. This was the first time I read about the bug, and there were even people who said, hey, do this and then you can actually get past Argumon. No way, I thought. First, we got the legendary Klappen cheat, which is a bit useless for someone who got stuck before finishing the game, because you need to be in the final boss room for this to work in this case. You also need to beat Machine Dramon once before with a data type Digimon to make sure the Ochre Fortress appears instead of another place, because it's tied to the type of your Digimon where it teleports you to, supposedly. Others say it actually is just random. So when your PlayStation loads into the final room, it makes noises while loading, and at many other places too. At the last noise of the loading screen, you now have to open the tray of your PlayStation 1 or PlayStation 2 Slim, and it makes it so you can freely move around the room instead of having to talk to Machine Dramon, and when you leave, it teleports you to the Ochre Fortress. Sadly, I could not find any footage of the trick on YouTube, and I can't recreate it myself since I have no PlayStation 1 anymore and I only had a fat PlayStation 2, which is broken anyways. Even as a kid I couldn't try it because we gave the PlayStation 1 away, because the PlayStation 2 could play those games too, so why keep it? Just like how everyone else back in the day threw away their Game Boy or Super Nintendo boxes. If we only knew how expensive they would get one day. But this works 100% eventually when you get it right, so people can actually get the content they couldn't get before, which is nice, I guess. The Klappen cheat even has some other uses, like being able to learn all techniques easily and making your Digimon super strong, and some other stuff depending on where you use it. Secondly, there's a method to glitch through besides the Agumon by wiggling yourself against him and eventually it pushes you through him, something like that. And I actually tried that back in the day, but without any luck. Since it works for some people, it can work, but maybe I'm just not good enough with my fingers on the controller to make it work. That's what my ex-wife said too before she left me and took our 4 precious cats. It could have also just been a hoax that never actually worked, because I read there's actually an invisible wall behind Agumon that can't be passed through, even if you manage to get behind him. Again, there's no videos about it on YouTube either that shows how it worked, so maybe it was all a lie. Nowadays, there's so many games that launch with issues, but at least now we can patch them. 2 wrongs don't make 1 right, but still. Back then there was nothing that could have been done. And Bandai, I think they just totally ignored it. I couldn't find a single article or anything like that where they ever apologized or talked about it. I also tried finding old German reviews of the game and found one from Maniac that absolutely poops on the game but never mentions the bug, which just makes me think they played a few hours of it and said, yep, this sucks, and never even got far enough to be able to mention it. Despite the bug, I still had tons of fun with Digimon World as a kid, and it still holds a special place in my heart and always will. Nowadays, every time I try to replay it though, I feel a bit impatient. As a kid I had all the time in the world to wait for my little pet to grow into something bad, and then just do it again. And again, and again, and eventually finally getting a Digimon I love. Now it feels more like a waste of time for me. This could easily be helped by consulting a guide, but I think that misses the point of the game a bit. I don't want to look at a list of things I have to do to get this or that Pokemon. Digimon. Playing a game like this with a guide just takes away its magic. That's just me though, I'm dumb like that. I would never blame anyone for using guide on this game because it just makes total sense. Maybe one day I will do it when I have all the time in the world in my retirement home. Also, if you ever want to play it in your own language that isn't English, make sure to find a patched version. Obviously I can't link those, but they're easy to find. I hope you enjoyed the video, and maybe I could make you relive one of your worst video game related childhood memories too. I will never forgive the people responsible for butchering some versions of the game, and hope every time they wash their hands, their sleeves roll down and get wet. Every single time. Or Bandai Namco nowadays should give us all their games for free as a punishment since they did this to us. With that said, I hope you're gonna have a nice day, a good night, or whatever fits you regarding your time zone. Tschüss, gute Nacht, Tschüssikowski.